let us jump to what you had to say, and the first comment comes from Hassan. He says, "Hey Bandrew, how do you edit your podcast for both video and audio versions? I imagine you only apply processing in Logic Pro, but how and where do you cut the clip so that the audio and video versions are both the same? Do you export the audio from the edited video and upload it to Libsyn? Cheers." Hassan, thank you very much for the comment and the question. To answer this, I filmed the video. I filmed a walkthrough, so let's go ahead and jump to Past Bandrew. Shoo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo. For the video podcast, I used two cameras, one being the primary angle, the other being the overhead angle. Both of these cameras are recording to the internal SD card. Simultaneously, I record my microphone's audio directly on my computer. When I am done recording, I hit stop on all devices. Then I drop the SD cards into my computer and transfer the files over so that I can start editing and syncing and all of that. Then I open up Logic Pro and I have a podcasting template that I use. It has most of my plugins. It has my outro music and the outro bumper, all of that. I open up that file and I drop my audio recording into Logic Pro so that I can begin processing it. I run all of my processing. Let's just assume it's all perfect. Then I will export that audio as 24-bit 48 kilohertz wave. Once the files have been transferred and once the audio has been processed, I drag and drop those into my non-linear video editor, which is Final Cut Pro. I will highlight both of the video angles and the processed audio and create something called a multicam clip. I create a new video project. We'll call this Video Edit Demo, and this will be the audio version of that edit. When I have that set up, I drag and drop my multicam clip onto the timeline. This is where I do all of my actual editing, because if I edited the audio in my DAW and then put it into my nonlinear editor, the audio and the video files would be different lengths. So I have to do all of my editing once the audio and the video are synced up. The beginning of this recording, I had a bunch of false starts. I goofed up a bit, so we'll delete that. At about 5 seconds, we'll just assume that I made a boo-boo, so I'll change from angle 1 to angle 2. There's a few seconds of me screwing up there, so I will cut that out. Then we'll switch back just for consistency to angle 1 about 5 seconds later. 5 seconds later, jump back to angle 2, and that is how I edit. Once I am done editing, I will play back the entire file. I will say, okay, at 7 seconds, I started talking about this topic. At about 21 seconds, I started talking about another topic, and that's how I will come up with the timestamps to put in my description and to embed in the MP3. Something I want to point out, I have 2 different edits for each episode of the podcast. I have the audio edit and I have the video edit. The audio edit has the introduction music and it has the introduction plugging the podcast network, all of that. While the video edit, which goes directly to YouTube, cuts out that introduction music and the plugs for the podcast network because YouTube audiences have very little tolerance for any kind of time waste. They want the content immediately. So I have 2 separate edits. Once everything is finalized and I have completed the edit, I will go to share the project. I will export a 1080p or a 4K video version to upload to YouTube. And then I will share a second file, and the second file is going to be a WAV file. So I export the audio as well. Once I have that file, I drop it into the Forecast app. This is where I add podcast title, episode title, summary, timestamps, artwork, all of that. I encode this as a 160 kilobits per second MP3, and this is what I upload to Libsyn. So when I am finished, I have multiple files. I have a 4K video file, which has 1 edit, and then I have a 160 kilobits per second MP3, which is a secondary edit. The audio file goes to Libsyn, the video file goes to YouTube. There you go. That's very weird trying to do that sound in reverse and doing the motion in reverse. I highly recommend you try that because I can assure you, you won't look stupid doing it at all, especially if you record yourself and publish it on the internet. Nothing bad will ever come of this. Nobody will ever use that against you. I hope that was helpful. Walking through the editing process, the syncing process, how I have multiple edits, which is a nightmare because then I have to do multiple timestamps, but I do this to ensure that I am producing content for each of the platforms in a way that the consumer, the people consuming the content, are expecting and the way that they enjoy the most. I hope that made sense.